In this video, we're going to go over the installation of our 300ZX Z31 door cards. So we have passenger side here on. This is on the 89. We have the earlier version we tested too, the earlier Z31, and the door latch is in a different location. So that's really the main difference in the early and the late Z31 door cards. So here we have it in raw aluminum. They'll also be available in black powder coat. And so I'm going to show you this one in. This one has, we're including them with new switches. One of the problems that we had was a lot of our switches were busted up and didn't work, but then also they're in the factory armrest. And in order to utilize the power windows still, but not trying to incorporate that factory armrest, we went ahead and switched out the switches, and those will be included in the kit as well. So the driver side switch is a combo, so it'll still do the passenger and driver side, and then the passenger side is just a single switch for the passenger. So these are available from Skillard.com. And we'll go over some of the other features and the installation process. So here we have a door pull, and these will have a engraving option available, but this one here is just blank, and we're utilizing the holes that are in the door card that also align with holes that are in the door itself. We'll get a better look at it here, but the fuzzy felt trim here, so that way you don't have any glass rattling around. That's included too. We also have this secondary little panel that's embossed in, so that way it kind of cleans up the door handle area. Like I had already mentioned, comes with a new switch, and they have little plug-in harnesses that will need to be wired into the factory, which we've figured out which wires you need to hook into to have it function. And I'm not going to go into that in the video. We're just going to have a little sheet that comes with the door panels that will explain which color wire you hook together. You know, they can be butt connected together, but what we'll do in ours is we're actually going to cut, solder, heat wrap the new harness in, and then it'll still be unpluggable with the new harness that comes with it. I'll pull it apart here in a minute and show that to you. Also, because of how thin the door panels are, nice and light, most switches aren't designed to actually clip into something that thin. So what we ended up doing is actually made a little like bezel ring too that adds a little bit of depth and dimension to it. But it also helps to get the switch more nice and secured in there. This is all attached with rib nuts and stainless machine screws. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. These guys here are attached actually into PIM nuts that are in the door itself. So I guess I can show you that real quick. These are... We'll unthread. Might want to actually fast forward because it's going to take me a minute to actually get them all out. So here we have this nice little panel that comes out with the machine screws that will go into the threaded nuts that come already into the door card. So after you've installed the door card, these panels will slide in place and then screw in. All right, so I've popped the door panel back off. One thing that I kind of mentioned, the door handle positioning. So on this is the 89. You can see the door latch is here. And on the earlier ones, like 84, 85, I think, possibly 86, they're up higher. So they're utilizing this. Otherwise, the holes are in the same location. They're pretty close. After checking multiple, there are ever so slight variances. So one of the things that we'll do is and I don't think they're intentionally variants, it's just the way they assembled the doors, but we'll have the machine screw, and it'll also come with a washer, which gives you a little bit of play, because you can fine-tune and adjust the holes, and they're ever so slightly different from one another. Not enough that it wouldn't fit, but enough that you want to open up the holes a little bit so you're not fighting it. So most of these holes that we're using are in factory location. What we're using is a riv nut to put into those holes, and so that way you end up with a machine thread, so you can use the machine screws instead of the plastic clips, which never work very well. And so we have supplementary videos that talk about riv nuts and riv nut tools, and like how to install those. And obviously you could just use YouTube and find out some instructions for that as well. But the riv nuts and the hardware will be included. The tool is not, but there's several good options if you don't have one or you're not aware of riv nut tools. So just wanted to point that out. One thing to note is up here, this one is not in a factory hole, but we felt like it needed an extra hold right here. So we did end up drilling that hole, installing that riv nut. And we did that after we had put the door card in place, and got the other screws started, then marked it, pulled it off, drilled the hole so we ensured it was in the right spot, because you would just use the hole that's in the door card to line that up. Another thing to note is that this riv nut and this riv nut, the holes where those are had just like sheet metal screws from the factory, and so you could reuse those factory sheet metal screws if you wanted. We didn't want to do that, and so we actually slightly drilled these two holes larger, so that way we could get the riv nuts in there and have a uniform hardware. We're going to include the riv nuts and the hardware to do that. If you decide you wanted to use the factory sheet metal and not do that, then obviously you can do that as well. Next thing I want to talk about is what we did with the harness. So I'm gonna go over that next. Okay, so like I had mentioned, we're going to talk about a little bit of the wiring. And so originally this harness here will be coming out through here, and then there's actually a little piece of that harness that comes out through here. They clip together, and because the door panel is now nice and tight, we don't want that on the top, and we're also, like you'd remember, relocating the switch. And so the new switch is going to go here. And so what we end up doing, there's usually a plastic clip, that's holding the harness on the outside. We snipped those off. We had to unplug part of this harness, feed it back inside the door, plug that piece together, route it up here. And you can see that we zip tied that harness in here nice and tight. And then also up here we zip tied. We did drill a hole right here, so that way we had something to loop that zip tie through, and got that all into place. So when you're doing this, you're going to want to make sure that you can run the window up and down without it interfering and catching the harness. We were able to do that fairly easily, but you definitely want to make sure, because you don't want to get it all put together, run it up, have it grab the harness, and rip your harness. Before, we would zip tie this, and this still has the factory plug on it. And so, like I had mentioned, we were actually going to cut this, and then we're going to solder in the new harness. So, for example, we would get this ready. Like you could use butt connectors, like I had mentioned, but I would prefer to do solder. So solder each wire, with the heat wrap, and then we'll shrink that around and make it nice and tight. But then instead of this plug that's going to be on there, we're going to end up with a new plug. And then that plug will be the one that, will go to our new switch here. So we're going to get that. Again, the wiring will include with the door cards. And so which color wire goes to which color wire. And then you're going to want to do that before we put the door card in place, you know, and I'm going to hook the switch in and I'm going to verify that it's working before I put the door panel on. And in addition to verifying that it's working, I'm going to verify that, like I had mentioned, that harness isn't catching. I mean, I can easily fit my hand between the mechanism and all the harnessing, so there's plenty of room to make it work. You just want to make sure that you've done that so it doesn't catch. So once we have that all in place, then, and you have your riv nuts in, then we're going to be able to start installing the door card. And since we already had it on and just pulled it back off, we'll just go through the reverse real quick and show you how it goes back on. So here we have the fuzzy felt. It's already attached here. So this will come with the kit and you'll just peel and stick. So that'll be definitely something you want to do before you go to put the door card on for its final time. So I've got this. This is going to hook over the top of the door panel. You're going to kind of work it to make sure that you're aligning it with the door handle, sliding it into place to line it up with our riv nuts that are sticking in there behind it. Like I had mentioned, you'll have the harness here, so I'll have this harness, you know, kind of poking out. So that way I can slip the bezel on here. You know, I'll be able to plug that together, assuming this will pop in. You know, you'll have your wires that come out. We will install this. My angle's a little awkward so that way the camera can see, but there we go. And then that will be able to click into place. Then I'm going to use the machine screws, washers, and I'm going to start putting them in. One thing to note is that there is some angle variation in the door itself. So when you're putting the machine screws in, it might not actually be perfectly parallel to the ground. So you want to keep that in mind as you get them started, because you don't want to cross thread anything and cause it to gall. So if it feels like possibly it's going to bind up, you want to pause, take a step back. One trick is if you accidentally get like a thread or something that's a little bit cross-threaded, back it out immediately. Don't try to force it in. And these are an M5 by 0.08. And to use a tap to just chase that in real quick, and that way you won't have any problems. Because if you try to force in a machine screw into you know, anything, a nut, a rib nut, you can really find that you're going to have a really hard time getting it, one, all the way in, and two, actually being able to back it out. So I'm going to go ahead and get all of these threaded in. And you want to do that because, you know, there still can be a little, you know, adjustment here, and we want to make sure we get everything set into place. And then once I get all these perimeter screws and like my door pull handle into place, then I'll go through and tighten them, and I'll put our cover plate on right here. Okay, so I've got all these like in there, you know, hand tight, and you can see that I still have a little bit of motion in here. So that way, you know, in case I need to, you know, fine tune anything, I can shift it, adjust it, you know, move it a little bit where I want to. I'm going to go ahead and slide the little embossed cover plate in. Get these started, and then I'll go ahead and secure this plate, and then after I've got the plate secured, I'll go ahead and tighten up all of the rest of my hardware, and that's really about all there is to it. We can go take a look here in a second at the driver's side panel, and so you can see the double switch that's over there. This is all obviously raw aluminum, and but it is also available in black powder coat, available from Skillard.com. You can email sales@Skillard if you have any questions. Here we are on the driver's side, just to kind of show you what that looks like. It's basically the same other than the switch, and it's a 2-switch instead of a single. It's got a couple more wires, but again, that wiring diagram will send with the door cards, so you have that in front of you. With the necessity to put the switches in the panel itself, you know, it moves them a little bit farther forward. So when the doors are closed, they're closer to the dash, but you can kind of look over here on the passenger side and see where the switch is located. Gives you an idea of the panel and the inside, what it will look like when it's all in and the door's closed.